Good morning. Welcome to day 6 of Sun and Moon. This morning we're going to practice some Yin Yoga to open up your body and start your day off on the right foot. Go ahead and make your way down to the floor. Into constructive rest pose. Make sure that you have your props nearby for this practice, whether it's pillows that you have at home or props like a bolster and a couple of blocks or a blanket. And just take a few breaths in and out through the nose to begin to ground into your practice. Remind yourself of why you chose to get on your mat this morning, what brought you here. And then give yourself complete permission to take this practice one moment at a time, not thinking about what happened yesterday or what will happen today. You're not even trying to anticipate what will happen in the practice itself. Taking things breath by breath and pose by pose. Our first pose today is going to be a variation of butterfly, and it's going to be combined with supported bridge pose. So go ahead and locate your blocks or your bolster and use your feet to press into the mat and lift your hips up, and then slide the bolster underneath your hips. So again, if you're using a couple of blankets or a pillow from home, that is great. Just make sure that the hips are a little bit elevated from the floor. And then we'll bring soles of the feet together and let the knees go apart for this butterfly variation. Big stretch into the inner thighs and through the front of your body. If this is really intense for you this morning, you do not have to have the pillow or bolster underneath you. You can always pick your hips up again, move that prop out of the way, and then have the hips down on the mat and bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees go apart like that. This is your practice. I'm just here to guide you. And so, like I've said before, in Yin, we are holding poses for about 3 minutes. We're trying to soften the muscles and letting go of tension, whether it's physical tension or mental tension, and experiencing the pose from a place of stillness and silence. You might start to extend your inhales and lengthen your exhales. This extended exhale, pranayama, is known to calm your nervous system, calm your mind. And notice as you empty out your exhales, making them as long as you can, how that makes room for a big and buoyant inhale on the next round. Take another breath in. Let it out with a gentle sigh. And so if you have your hips elevated and the legs are in that butterfly shape, you're going to bring the feet back to the mat, knees point towards the ceiling. Everybody press into the feet to lift the hips away from the prop that's underneath you and move it out of the way, and then lower back down into constructive rest pose. Notice how your back body feels after being in that back bend and hip opener for some time. And we're going to get a little bit more into the hips now. Cross your left ankle over your right thigh. Let the left knee drift away from you, and you can let your legs be soft. You can even stay right here if this is where you're most comfortable and you're feeling a good stretch in the outside of your left hip. If you want to create more of a stretch, draw your knees in towards your body, and you can hold on to, if you have long pants on, you can hold on to your pants leg. You can hold on to the back of your right thigh and let your right heel rest down towards your glute. Or if it's available, you could interlace your fingers around the front of your right shin. And we'll hold this pose for a little bit of time. So if right now you are feeling like the pose is at a 7 or an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to back off to more so of a 4 or a 5. And then over time, then you start to deepen. But generally in Yin, starting off near 100%, it doesn't add to the experience. If anything, it takes away from the experience. You want to be able to be as still and soft as possible for the full duration of our time here. Come back to those long exhales and buoyant, big inhales. The same way that with our breath, the exhales create space for the next inhale, our yoga practice is creating space for the next step in our day. It's giving you room to choose how you want to show up and set that intention for yourself. Notice if anywhere else in your body could soften now. Take another breath in. Exhale and release whatever you're holding on to. Bring the right foot back to the floor if it's not there already. And before you uncross your legs, we're going to take another variation with the legs in this figure 4 shape, moving into a twist. Let your left foot and your right thigh drop over to the right until your left foot comes into contact with the floor. If the floor feels really far away, you can bring a block or a blanket underneath. Let your right hand rest on your right inner thigh or the inside of your right knee. You're trying to get the right knee to point up towards the ceiling as much as you can. And then for your left side, you can just let your left arm rest beside you, or some people do like to reach the left arm up overhead. And then we'll be here in this pose, breathing, using every inhale to create space and every exhale to soften and let something go. If your right arm holding your left leg up becomes tiresome, another way that you can help your right leg stay lifted is by holding on to your left ankle with your right hand and pulling that foot closer in so that you can have more of the foot on the mat or on the floor. If you have pretty open hips, it might be easier for you to have your hand on your left ankle. Otherwise, use your right hand to keep the leg open. Breathe into your left side body. Use your next inhale to help your legs float back up through center. Let your left arm come down beside you and uncross your left foot from your right thigh. And take a pause in constructive rest to notice how those poses affected your body. And then whenever you're ready, let's do those same poses on the other side. Right ankle crosses over your left thigh. Again, you can stay right here with the left foot on the floor. Soften your lower body as much as you can. And then maybe draw the left leg in by holding onto your pants leg, the back of your thigh, or the front of your shin. Soften your upper body into the mat. Even though we're holding on to the leg with our hands perhaps, you really don't have to do that much work in your arms. You don't need to be pulling on your leg. You just need to use enough effort to be able to hold on to your leg. And come back to your breath. And let every breath cycle bring you more into the present moment. Notice if anywhere else in your body could soften. Maybe you're holding tension and you didn't realize it until now. And you just let it go. Take another breath in. Exhale, release whatever you're holding on to. Let the left foot come back down to the floor, onto the figure four twist. So keep your legs right where they are, but let the right foot and the left thigh drop over to the floor or to something that will raise the floor up a little bit closer to you. You can hold on to your right ankle or use your left hand on your right inner thigh to keep that knee pointing up. And you can reach your right arm up overhead if that feels good. Soften into this pose. Notice if this is a little bit different than the first side. It's pretty common for one side to be tighter or more open than one other side. Breathe into your right side body. On your next inhale, float your legs back up through center. Gently uncross your right leg from your left. And take another pause in constructive rest. Just notice the effect of those poses so far on your body. And from here, let's roll over to one side and slowly raise up to take a seat. If you have blankets or a pillow nearby, I invite you to sit up onto that pillow or blanket just to give the hips a little bit more space so the pelvis is able to find a little bit more rotation whenever you have your hips elevated, and you can let the legs be heavy. And then we're going to take what's called dragonfly. So have some blocks or more pillows nearby. Extend your legs out long to the sides. A wide V shape. It does not need to be as wide as what I'm doing here. It doesn't even need to be your widest V shape possible. Again, we want to be able to feel a little bit of a forward and backwards tilt of the pelvis. You want to feel mobile in the pelvis. And then once you can feel the forward rock of the pelvis where your tailbone is pointing back and you have a small little curve of your lower back, soften your legs, especially the tops of your thighs, all the way down to your toes. Bring blocks or a pillow in front of you, something to lean onto, and then just let yourself round forward into this forward fold, dragonfly. Depending on your level of flexibility, you might be able to use a block or two underneath your forehead, something for your head to rest down on like this. But also, if you are not that close to the ground, you can use your blocks underneath your forearms and your elbows, and then bend your elbows, bring the hands together, and rest your forehead on your thumbs, or just on your hands in any way that's comfortable to you. And so notice how it feels through your inner thighs and the backs of your legs. Notice how your lower back feels. Try to soften your shoulders. Let your upper body be heavy and release the weight of your head. Begin to deepen your breath. Let gravity be just a little bit heavier now. Take another breath in. Exhale out. Inhale to lift your head. Slide your hands underneath your body. Press down into your hands and use the strength of your arms to come up to upright. Pause and notice the effect of that pose. And then you can use your hands underneath your knees to help bend them in, one at a time. And make your way around to tabletop pose. You can use a blanket if you have one underneath your knees if the floor and your mat does not have enough cushion. Make sure that you have your hips right over your knees and the knees are hip width distance apart. And then we're going to take melting heart pose. Begin to walk your hands forward on your mat until your elbows and your forehead come down to the mat. Just like the name of the pose implies, melt your heart towards the floor. Soften your lower belly, soften your jaw and your shoulders. If this is too much right now in the upper body, grab some pillows or a bolster and bring it underneath your chest. You want to be in a version of this pose that you can hold for the duration of time we're here. But if you ever need to take a break, it is totally okay to come back up to table for a breath or two and then return back to the heart opener. Notice if you could let go a little bit more. If your body is asking for a deeper variation of this pose for our last little bit of time, you can bring your lips to the mat or your chin to the mat. If that causes any pain in the neck, come back to the forehead on your mat. Take another breath in and exhale. Lift your head. Walk your hands back underneath your shoulders. And for one little brief moment here, you're going to bring your knees together. Sit your hips back towards your heels. And then lower your forehead to the mat, or in my case, I'm going to bring a block underneath my forehead. And then let your arms reach back next to your hips and let the tops of the hands rest down on the floor. Your shoulders are going to round forward. Let that happen. 5 breaths right here. With your next inhale, bring your hands under your shoulders and press down to lift up. You can move your block out of the way and move your blanket off of your mat and start to lower back down onto your back for Shavasana, our final resting pose. Today, your Shavasana can be any variation that you know of that sounds nice to you. It could be constructive rest. It could be extending your legs out long. If you have pillows or a bolster, you could slide one underneath your knees or underneath your head, or both. Soften the weight of your body into your mat, and we'll be here for just a couple more moments to let our nervous system reset and let the nutrients of our practice sink in. Just like the rest of our practice, remaining in this present moment and letting what happened before this moment and what will come after go away for now. Remaining just as you are, bring your awareness back to your breath, back to your body. Start to wiggle fingers and toes, and wrists and ankles. Let these little movements turn into larger movements. Maybe you reach your arms up for one last big stretch. Breathe in. And exhale to soften again. Let that go. In your own time, draw your knees into your body. Roll yourself over to one side. And use your bottom arm like a pillow. Let your top hand rest in front of you. Just take these last couple of moments to honor the transition between your Shavasana and the rest of your day. And then inhale to press into the top hand, extend the top leg, make your way around to a seat. Sit up tall when you arrive. Soften your gaze, close your eyes. Feel gratitude for yourself for choosing this time. With gratitude in our hearts, let's bring the palms together in front of the heart, and we'll close by saying Namaste.